Hi, this is Vic Mitchell, two-time Olympian for Steeplechase, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by the awesome technology of Earshot's Bluetooth magnetic headphones, the Physical Performance Show's Learnings membership, and of course, Pogo Physio's online telehealth consultations. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist and exercise scientist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. Each week, we'll bring you the latest and greatest information and inspiration designed to help you perform at your physical best. And of course, we do this across a range of our different episodes, interest editions, coaches' corners, catch-up episodes, featured performers, and expert editions. And off the back of last week's episode 270, featuring US-based medical exercise specialist Celeste Goodson, exploring all things returning to sport postpartum, we've decided to hear from some of Australia's leading female athletes around their own return to sport postpartum. And today you'll enjoy a conversation that we recently recorded with Australian dual Olympian, 3 times Commonwealth Games representative, and 5 times Australian national 3000m Steeplechase champion, Vic Mitchell. Now, on this featured performer episode, of course, we cover the highs, lows, and learnings. It's unique for so many reasons. It's the first episode conducted with a guest who has shared their career highs, lows, and learnings whilst simultaneously breastfeeding. So throughout the episode, you will hear from Victoria's beautiful little daughter, Sky, who is just 19 months, and how fitting that Sky makes some cameos on several occasions throughout the episode, given the topic of exploration returning to sport postpartum. The other reason this episode is very unique is because Victoria's journey, her story, is unique. You'll hear Vic mention some real life hardships that she's endured. These include enduring sexual assault as a child, falling pregnant whilst part of the collegiate US track running scene, going through to terminating a pregnancy, the ensuing self-harm that resulted, and Victoria shares very candidly around her efforts to restore and regain her life after enduring such hardships. Now, Victoria's biography is so prolific. As mentioned at the top of the show, Victoria has 5 Australian titles to her name in the 3000m steeplechase. She also took out, whilst at college in the US, the NCAA very coveted title for the 3000m steeples. Victoria has represented Australia 3 times at the Commonwealth Games, including the most recent Commonwealth Games in 2018 held on the Gold Coast, of which Vic shares quite a fascinating story of overcoming ahead of the 2018 Games on today's episode. And of course, there has been the Beijing 2008 Olympic Games and Rio Olympic Games in 2016 appearances as well. So I know you'll enjoy this episode. It is a great example of career high, lows, and learnings. Here is my conversation with Vic Mitchell. Vic Mitchell, welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Oh, thanks, Brad. It's a pleasure to be here.
Gosh, and this may be a first for the show in that right as we record, you are feeding your beautiful little daughter, Sky.
Yeah, that's right. She's nearly 19 months, but she's still breastfed and she loves it. I can't see her weaning herself anytime soon.
And so this is definitely a first, and it's very fitting because we're on this theme at the moment of exploring sport postpartum. We've just featured Celeste Goodson, expert on an expert edition around the science of returning to sport postpartum. And Now we get to hear from yourself and some of your fellow Australian Olympic Commonwealth Games team members, Jess Stenson, Nee Trengove, and obviously Eloise Wellens. So, Vic, it'll be fantastic to hear how your journey's been postpartum. But before we go there, let's get a bit of a snapshot of the highs, lows, and learnings. To date, Vic, you've had outstanding success, Australian representative, 2 Olympic Games, 3 Commonwealth Games. What's been your highest career point?
Oh, good question. Well, it was actually 2006 walking out to the crowd in the opening ceremony of Com Games. That was a massive high point for me. It was electric and my first taste of that atmosphere. Off you go, sweetie. So, and then obviously my first Olympics, that was pretty awesome as well. Just the whole experience in the village and on the big stage. And then the lows.
So, and on the highs there, Vic, I mean, quite obviously they'd be pretty special memories. First Olympic experience and Com Games out on home soil at Melbourne, Australia. And then performance-wise, is there one performance that really stands out amongst what's been a fairly incredible bio to date as per the top of the show that stands out for you? If so, which one and why?
Basically, any of my Australian titles are a standout because, I don't know, just winning the Aussie title is the best thing you can do at home, on home soil. So, and it's a pressure situation, and I've made a few teams that way as well, having to, win and get the time and get auto nomination. So they've been highlights because they're just a relief and knowing that you've made a team.
How did it all start, Vic? If we sort of go back in time now, you hail from the high country, Mansfield, Victoria, but how did you find yourself in a pair of running shoes, enjoying it, and then discovering that you had talent?
Yeah, well, I did little athletics at Mansfield. We didn't do primary school sport, like inter-school sport or anything. So it was when I got to high school, and my PE teacher there, Steve Ward, he saw me run and encouraged me a lot. And basically, I reckon it was because he fostered my potential that I decided to have a go. And so I went to inter-school, Eastern Zone and States. I was never the best at States straight away, that's for sure. We got down there and, I'm from the country. This is a lot of the kids even nowadays, we don't have the right footwear. We don't have spikes. We don't know what we're really in for. And we line up and then, we don't do so well to begin with.
The whole country versus metropolitan hub scene. I remember I grew up in Grafton, New South Wales, and it was always quite daunting, attending state and national titles with some of the metro kids. You just felt like you were from a different planet. Yeah,
you just feel out of your league. I was even teaching at Mansfield a little while ago, and there was a boy who was going down for states for hurdles, and he didn't have spikes, and I was just thinking, oh, you poor thing. He probably just never had coaching over the hurdles. Yeah, he was in for a shock. Yeah.
And Vic, was there a point in your young developmental years, as you said, you didn't excel at the state titles initially, that you really started to really believe that you could take this further?
Because every year I would improve and go better and better until I did actually win the states. But it's just constantly getting that little bit better where it kept me hungry for more.
Yeah, so was it slow and steady improvement, or did you have a few meteoric breakthroughs?
No, I think it was pretty slow and steady. And then when I was in under 20, the competition dropped off because I think girls, they drop out of the sport and they do different things. But then that's when I ended up, I finished uni and then I went to Butler University. And then again, I found myself kind of at the bottom of the pile, have to work back to the front.
You're not selling yourself very well here, Vic. You said you started to succeed when everyone else stopped. I'm joking. And then, you had some incredible success in the US collegiate system, winning that NCAA 3000m Steeplechase title. NCAA titles don't come easy.
Yeah, that's right. And no one really knows what they're about unless you're American. So you can only impress when you talk to Americans pretty much, or someone that knows the sport. But it was a shock. I was very relaxed beforehand and not thinking too much. And then, ended up I put the jets on about 300 to go and just happened to, drop the girls and get the win.
Gosh. And steeples, how did you find your groove in the steeplechase?
Oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, I had never jumped a steeple or jumped over the water jump or anything, but I saw it on the program and just thought, yep, I'm having a go at that. And I won my first one and then just loved it and kept going after that.
And how old were you when you did your first steeplechase?
Oh, I reckon I was late teens, yeah, because it wasn't even an event for us initially.
For women, yeah.
So for women, yeah. So when it came onto the program is when I started out in it. That's like it was the first time in Com Games, first time in the Olympics when I was there. So, yeah.
Really? So it took until 2008 for it to be added to the Olympic program?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. I mean,
it's crazy to think.
There's some it's like in the swimming, there's now the 1,500 metre freestyle, not just the 800 free, which, the women's world record's not, within striking distance of the males. It's just incredible that so many years of development and, these things are only being tweaked in recent times.
Yeah.
At least they are being tweaked.
Yep.
And Vic, amongst all the successes, what would you say has been the darkest day in your career, the low?
The low, well, when it was actually over in Butler again. So I've been through a lot as a kid, and it kind of came to a head when I was away on my own in another country trying to find my groove. And so, at Butler, I got nicknamed bipolar, by the way, because I was so up and down in my moods and just struggling. And I ended up over there self-harming at one point, and it was just lucky for my running that I kept kind of on track. I mean, if I didn't have my running, I don't know where I'd be today. It's always been that one main thing that I could focus on above all else and just get me through. That was my pretty dark times there. And then I haven't told anyone this actually, but over there I got pregnant with my boyfriend at the time, and he was English and I was Australian, and we're in America, and we're just like, oh, what do we do? And I struggled to terminate, but that's it. That's what we did. But that really took a toll on me at some point. But it's weird because I actually ran awesome, regardless of what was going on in my life, and because I could always just put that aside and do what I love.
Vic, there's a bit there. Just going back a notch, you said that you went through a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
Anything you can elaborate on? Yeah.
So I went through some sexual abuse, and that was when I was really, like 9 or 10, from older cousins. I never told anyone. I never, for me, I was like embarrassed and shamed about it. And then a little bit on when I was 16, I had date rape. So with this guy, and I said no. And so that was another thing. And that really took another hit to my self-esteem and worth. And I was just a shell of a person after that. And basically I didn't tell anyone because I was ashamed, and I felt like used goods and not good enough anymore, and that I was no good because of what had happened. And but I think, if I had got help and actually talked about it, I would have recovered better. And then, later on when I was in my early 20s, I wouldn't have been so affected, or it would still be with me, all this baggage.
Well done for being able to, talk about it and acknowledge it. Now I imagine it's still not easy, but it's a whole lot more probably helpful to be able to communicate around it versus,
Yeah. And there's also things like, my parents had separated, they were divorced. It was really hard to see my dad. My mum would say bad things about him and try to turn us against him. Yet when I saw him, he was always loving. So there was this whole emotional turmoil going on there. And then this is like Jerry Springer stuff. my mum ended up with my dad's brother. My uncle was my father figure, although I felt no fatherly connection with him. And then at one point, his 3 girls came to live with us, and we were like the opposite of the Brady Bunch. There was 4 of us kids and 3, so there was 7 kids in the house, in this little house in Tolmy in the bush. And, they didn't like Mum, and we kind of had our issues with our Uncle Neil. So, that whole dynamic was just a bit weird.
And was running a bit of an outlet for you, a bit of a safe zone?
Yeah, something to focus on. And that's when I felt, it's later on I discovered, it's not good to put your whole identity and self-worth into running when you can lose, when you're not always winning. But at the time it was something I knew I was good at, and I felt like I was seen sometimes, like at the sports days, and I was, it added to my self-worth, and I was good at something. And so I think that really drove me as well, even though you'd think, oh, no, you shouldn't have those external type thing. At the time, I probably needed that.
And the self-harm at your collegiate years, was that born out of the challenges that you shared, like the pregnancy at university, or was that like just a manifestation of all these things?
I think it was a lot of things, all just that I couldn't, that I hadn't worked through or something. And I just, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm thinking it was a lot of all these different things just coming to the surface, that I'd buried away. And there was actually something that I really find as a high point out of Butler was this was like a saving grace. I went and saw What the Bleep Do We Know, which is a documentary about the mind-body connection and how your thoughts can affect you. It really struck me. There's a Japanese guy did a study on water, and he had this water that was blessed, and it looked pretty, all the molecules like snowflakes. And then the other one that all these bad thoughts were generated towards, all the molecules in them were all grotesque and, bad looking. And it was just said, if your thoughts can do this to water, imagine what your thoughts are doing to you. And that was just a light bulb, because I had really bad thoughts. And I was like, oh, my goodness, I can actually choose my thoughts. I don't have to. It was just an epiphany.
When you say bad thoughts, do you mean bad thoughts about yourself, or bad thoughts about your future, or? Yeah,
so more like self-criticism, like lots of self-criticism, not being good enough. Just thoughts towards myself were not healthy or self-loving. I wasn't good enough, and things like that. If I did something wrong, I'd criticize myself. I
think that trait is fairly consistent to a point with a lot of elite performers, not just in sport but in anything. They're often very hard on themselves, and no one has higher expectations of their performance than themselves. So I think it can be an asset to a point, but a liability is,
it's a double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword. Well said. And then Vic, just still on these sort of challenging dark days for you. You said you saw the movie that you came across that sort of alerted you to the fact that you could choose your thoughts. But was there any professional help that you sought to sort of get yourself out of the self-harm spiral, or
No, this was like it was kind of like we were brought up to like not cry. It's weak to cry. I was brought up to be strong and everything. So I thought, I'm not telling anyone about this. Like, I'm going to deal with this. So I took it upon myself, and I started just reading voraciously all the self-help books I could find, and, learning. And I would track my mood on a calendar and put a happy face or a sad face depending on how good my thoughts were in the day. And I just try to get as many happy faces in a row. And I journal. Like, writing was really cathartic to me. So I didn't see anyone, but I reckon if I did, it would have shortcutted my kind of recovery, or I would have got to a nicer place sooner.
Got to a nicer place
Yeah, like
sooner.
a sunnier place in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, gosh, do you still have those happy face calendars?
No, that was just a butler thing. And then when you get a certain point, things drop away. So I stopped monitoring like that because I felt like I was at a better, each step I climbed towards this more self-love, other things dropped away and I focused on, mantras or affirmations and lots of reading and
And were you in a better place by the time you returned home from your collegiate years there after 18 months, the athletic scholarship to represent Australia at the 2006 Com Games where you finished fourth? Were you in a better place by then or was it still a work in progress?
I reckon I'm still a work in progress to this day, but we all are. But
totally.
I definitely, I was making ground and, getting better and better.
And what was the first Olympic outing like in terms of, you said, that moment walking into the village and realising for a girl that had a fairly almost, hard to surpass in many ways the traumas that you incurred in one lifetime, it must have been quite surreal. I felt, honoured to be there and a part of me always didn't feel like I belonged, but that's a work in progress there. But, I was just pumped to be there. I was really grateful. So that's another thing. Gratitude came into it. Sorry if you can hear her. She's watching Bananas in Pajamas. Oh, I understand the excitement. Go Sky. And Vic, not everything even post the Com Games has gone smoothly. Before your 2018 Commonwealth Games representation at Gold Coast, Australia, just days or weeks before you were struck down with a gangrenous appendix that you had to get emergency surgery for.
Yeah, so that I was actually in really good shape. I'd run a 9:36 and I was getting back to my best shape is what I thought. But I just couldn't showcase that because, 13 days before I ended up having surgery. But I actually went to the hospital saying, I've got this pain and they told me to go home. The classic, I don't know, you hear about these things. And then I'm like thinking, no, this is bad. So I got an Uber and took myself back to back to hospital the next day. And I was just like, man, and they were nearly going to send me home again. And so I had to play the athlete card and go, look, I know my body, there's something wrong. It's not just I have to poo or, it's something bad, like this is no good. And then so they decided, okay, we'll scan you. And then, they're like, oh, no, you're going to surgery. There was all apparently pus in my pelvic cavity and all this. So I had to stay an extra night or two because I kept spiking fevers. And a big thing, I'm a big mind-body type of person. And so I believe all our cells are listening to what we're saying and, listen to our thoughts and thoughts become things kind of thing. Anyway, so I was feeling like absolute death and the doctor came in and was like, and I was like discussing, I still want to run at Com Games. And he's just like, look at you can't even sit up straight. And I got so mad because I thought that is now I know the power of the healing, how quickly we can heal and this, the games are 2 weeks away. Why would you say that? Like, if it wasn't me, if it was someone else, they might have given up the way we're talked to, saying, you can't, look at you, you're too sick or whatever. It's like, but that's today. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You don't know how much better I'm going to be. So my mindset was like, I'm going to do as much as I can every day and see how I go. I'm not going to just let this define that I can't do it. And I think, I needed that mentality. Otherwise, I would not have been there. I would have just listened to the people around me.
And you got to the Com Games 2 weeks later on the Gold Coast, and the win is just being there. The performance on the day is, secondary.
Yeah.
But it must have been bittersweet. You must have felt some satisfaction to be there, but also disappointed in that you were only 6 seconds away from your 2006, best
PB.
form PB.
Yeah, and I actually, in the back of my mind, thought, maybe this is one of those cases where you just have the greatest run ever because you've had that extra rest, and I didn't have any coffee because I just felt sick. I went off coffee. I didn't have any sweets or sugars. I thought, I'm going to be primed. But then I got there. I felt great, but I was kind of, I call it speed limited. I only had like one gear basically and not all my gears. And then afterwards the doctor's like, oh yeah, that's the antibiotics. That's what they do. And I'm like, oh, because I really didn't want to take the antibiotics because I knew that would affect me, but I did because the infection. But
well, health first.
Yeah.
Another story of Vic Mitchell overcoming, and then postpartum. Vic, you're 19 months post the birth of your beautiful little girl there, Sky. What have you learnt postpartum about returning to sport?
Well, I underestimated. The pregnancy went awesome. Like I did heaps of stuff. I could still run. I did a fun run in Yarrawonga 11 days beforehand, and I did sub 25 for 5K. But I didn't enjoy the running at the end because of the pressure on my bladder. It always made me want to pee. Anyway, so pregnancy, no nausea. It was a dream. But then postpartum, I had a massive gap between my abs, so DRAM, a big gap, and I was like really worried if it was going to come back. And it started to with some exercise, but I was starting to get I never had back problem in my life, and now my lower back was sore, and I'm just like, what's going on? Anyway, so I made the decision to get it fixed. And get it fixed, not the nice way, which costs 20 grand because it's like cosmetic surgery where you have a low scar like a cesarean where they lift it up, tie it back to. Oh, I also had a hernia. Whoops. So an umbilical hernia. So that's another thing. So I had a hernia and this big ab separation, and it was kind of lucky that I had the hernia because that allowed me to get the ab separation fixed at the same time. Yeah, so I got the scar. I've got a long vertical scar right down my midsection. But I was going to take the scar over paying 20 grand. And it was the best thing I've ever done. So, yeah, it just fixed it straight away, and I got my power back, and I just feel complete again. So if there's anyone out there, toying with the idea, I would do it again in a heartbeat. Yeah.
And you return to running. What does that specifically look like? When did you start? How many weeks postpartum?
Oh, well, I was, how I'm all about pushing the envelope, and if it doesn't hurt or if there's, no pain and minimum discomfort, then you can do whatever you can. So I was actually being held back by my partner. I would have gone even sooner, but he was like, don't be silly. So I was doing elliptical, a couple of weeks after, and then I started running. Yeah. So
within a couple of weeks you were running, and was it a gradual increase?
Yeah, and I gradually increased. But it was basically my fitness holding me back then because, although I kept very active during pregnancy, I wasn't doing all that running that I used to do.
Alongside your gradual return to running, were you doing any strength type exercises specifically?
Yeah, I did a bit of gym work, a bit of, I was doing the toe taps and everything to try to get my abs back. I just looked it up online. There were, because the country doctors, I don't want to diss all of them, but they're just not up to date with, they always treat me like I'm a normal, everyday person, and I'm not. I try to tell them, I'm an elite athlete, so, I don't need to wait this long. I need, more direction, but they're just not used to it. So, yeah.
And did you get some criticism from any people around, don't go so fast, don't do that?
Only the people that don't know about sport or not used to elite people, which is a lot of the people around here. They're not used to elite sports people. So they were a bit like, oh, don't overdo it. It's, like your mum and they don't, they mean well, but you don't really listen to them because they don't really have the knowledge of elite sports people.
And were you confused or worried at any point about starting back? Because there's so much noise around, Celeste Goodson on the Expert Edition shared about one of the myths people hear is don't do ab work, it'll push down on the pelvic floor. Did you have any worries around getting back to strength training?
I just decided to just do what I thought was best, as in if it didn't hurt me and I didn't feel like a weird, uncomfortable situation, if it felt okay, then I would say, like, no, this is fine. So I really trusted myself. And I've developed that over the years of tuning into my body and knowing when's enough or when's too much.
And were there any hiccups along the way with the strength and conditioning, or just you've improved it right
strength and conditioning's fine, yeah. I didn't have no problems post-surgery at all with my abs or back or anything.
Yeah, brilliant. And Vic, unfortunately, there was a hiccup with your return to running by way of a bone stress injury. Can you talk us through that?
Oh, I also had a calf little strain as well, and I think that was just a loading problem. But yeah, I got some bone stress, which I was surprised about. This was in February, and knowing that nationals are in April, I was a bit concerned, and so I started cross training, and I had about 10 to 12 days rest. But then luckily I was talking to Elsie, and I was like, the doctors here, they sent me for a bone scan, was it? Yeah, not an MRI. So it's old school to go send me for a bone scan, apparently. You get more information from an MRI. Anyway, so I got the bone scan results and I sent them to her, and then she's like, I have this doctor that specialises in postpartum, Dr. Brandy Cole, and I was like, awesome. So I had a telehealth appointment with her, and if I hadn't had that, I don't think I would have got back for nationals. And that's because, I was told by the doctors here, 6 to 8 weeks, not running, your normal prognosis and just your standard, what happens when you get a bone stress or stress fracture. And so she was like, we could go get you in for an MRI, but, I would have had to go to OLY, and it would have been 2 weeks later. So to me, I'm losing time. So I'm like, I don't want to wait for that. She goes, there is another way, and that's to train via symptoms. And this was music to my ears, because this is what I would do if there wasn't any technology to show me what's wrong anyway, which is if it doesn't hurt, you can run. And then if you get pain, you have to stop and take it easy, cross-train. So you monitor your symptoms, and if there's no symptoms, you just keep training, and you just keep slowly. Obviously, you don't just ramp it up. So she looked at my load, and we made it a gradual increase. And then I'd do a week's training, and she'd be like, how was that? And I'm like, yeah, good. And so she'd go, okay, so now you can increase another day running here, and then increase the intensity. And our goal was to get up to 2 sessions in a week, and which included a long run, and then an hour on the other days. But I never actually got to 1 full week of training before nationals. But I did get some. I got 4 or 5 90-minute runs. I got a few track sessions in, and so I was going to have a crack.
And were you managing your symptoms throughout? Or you didn't have any? Yeah. You still had some pain?
Yeah, so every now and then it wasn't pain. It was just like I felt something. I don't know. I just knew there was something going on there, that I was on the edge. It was weird.
This is in your foot. This is
in my foot. Yeah.
Yep.
But I also knew, because bones, the osteoclasts and blasts, to me, I visualize it as, they're building and blasting continuously, like it's a whole thing. So if I took more calcium, that would just help them build up. So that's another thing. I started straight away on calcium supplements. There's all these factors as to maybe why I got it, but I think the main reason was because I'm still breastfeeding and I wasn't getting enough calcium in my diet. And if that's the case, then the calcium's taken out for bubs. So I think that it was simply I wasn't taking enough calcium.
Yeah, it does tend to be, amongst your peers as well, who are also featuring around this sort of series. Eloise Wellens, who you just mentioned, and Jess Stenson, Nee Trengove. Postpartum, there is that greater energy demand on the female athlete, and it's, the resources, just aren't going to be there. It's almost impossible to get enough in to then meet the demands of the high output around training as well. So it must be.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, the whole Reds thing. I was thinking, I had been kind of restricting a bit because I was getting back into hard, serious training, and which I really didn't need to do because I'm still breastfeeding and I've got a high energy demand. So that also, I started taking calcium and not really worrying about my diet at all, like not thinking I'm eating too much or and it's almost near impossible to get enough on board, I think, when you are outputting high and you're also clocking up the training hours. But there must be some level of comfort that some of your peers have succumbed to home stress postpartum as well, in the cold comfort that would be. Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I don't feel like a massive failure that, Elsie and Jess, who are professionals to the T, that they've had some problems because I was just immediately when I got the bone thing, I was like, why haven't I been taking calcium? Why didn't I just start that immediately? Like, I'm so silly. But yeah, I guess, we're human.
Oh, absolutely. And, it's all about not making the same mistake, hopefully twice, but it's part of the athletic journey. It's inevitable. People are going to get injured. You're listening to Vic Mitchell, 3 times Commonwealth Games representative, 2 times Australian Olympian, and 5 times national 3000m Steeplechase champion. On this expert edition, sharing around her career highs, lows, and learnings, and of course, navigating the journey of returning to sport postpartum. Support for today's show comes from Earshot's Bluetooth headphones. Now, if you're anything like me, there have been occasions where your training has been frustrating whilst on a long session because your earphones have either stopped working, disconnected, fallen out of your ears, or run out of charge. Now, the team at Earshot's headphones have changed the game. Earshot's is a disruptive action sports headphone company dedicated to unlocking human potential through sound. Earshot's co-founder and CEO, James Bell Booth, became frustrated by the constant distractions of his headphones dislodging and falling out. And off the back of this, Earshot's headphones were forged in the heart of New Zealand's deepest national parks. Earshot's Bluetooth headphones utilises an innovative, first-of-its-kind proprietary magnetic ear clip design. This unique design ensures it can withstand the sharp shocks, speed, and functional movements of action sports, unlocking new freedom of movement without compromising on sound. Now, the team have generously offered up 10% off a pair of Earshot's Bluetooth magnetic headphones. The recommended retail price is normally $169.75. However, by using the code TPPS over at checkout, you can receive 10% off your very own Earshot's headphones. Join many listeners of the show who have been enjoying picking up their set of Earshot's headphones. Now, support for today's show also comes from our very own Learnings membership. It's really simple. If you'd like to support the production of the show, you can do so from just $5 per month over at Patreon, Patreon. Just search the Physical Performance Show, and there you can pledge your support for the show, and in return we'll grant you access complimentary to the normally $49 per person ticketed live stream events that we host throughout a calendar year. In 2020, we hosted Dr. Stephen Seiler on all things polarized training. And of course, we hosted recovery scientist and world-acclaimed expert, Dr. Shona Halson, on all things recovery science. Both of those live streams were attended by so many registrants worldwide, and by becoming a Learnings membership member, you can receive complimentary access to those live streams. Now, great news, in 2021, we'll be enjoying live streams from very popular prior guests of the show, Rinny McGregor, UK-based sports dietitian, who will be conducting a live stream around all things fueling for the endurance athlete. The date we are working on around Olympic Games commitments, but that will be forthcoming. And then later in the year, we're excited to announce that positive psychology researcher and prior guest of the show, Rory Darkins, will also be conducting a live stream event. Now, massive thanks to this week's new patrons, long-term listener of the show, and all-round legend, Sal Poole. Sal, thank you for your support of the show. If you'd like to follow Sal, you can find Sal over on Instagram at Sal_Poole, Poole. And a massive thanks also to Andrew Edwards for your support of the show. And finally, support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio's online telehealth consultations. If you are an endurance athlete struggling with bone, tendon, or joint-related concerns, then the 45-minute online appointments are a highly effective, cost-effective, and time-efficient way to get a solution for your concern. To schedule your 45-minute online telehealth consultation, simply jump over to pogophysio.com.au/telehealth or get in touch via email b.beer@pogophysio.com.au. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured guest, dual Australian Olympian, 3 times Commonwealth Games representative, and of course, 5 times national 3000m Steeplechase title holder, Vic Mitchell. Vic, are you ready to clock up a session for the day with a performance round?
Yes.
Rapid fire questions.
Yes. Okay.
And Sky can contribute too. Training session.
Can you hear her?
Sky's making great additions. It's fantastic. Training session, most disliked.
Most disliked. Well, this is going to be controversial, I guess, but the long run, I'd rather do short, fast stuff.
How long's Vic Mitchell's long runs?
It's only 90 minutes. Marathoners would be laughing at that, but yeah.
But hey, it's still long relatively. Training session most loved?
Most loved? Oh, probably quarters, just one lap hard and then a minute off, yeah.
How many?
Like to... 8 to 10, yeah.
8 to 10, yep. Pre-race meal, what fuels you?
Oh, carbs, baby. I love carbs, so I love rice and pasta. The stuff that, marathoners are the only ones that need to carb load, but athletes, we still have this thing about let's get the carbs in. I still need my glycogen full. So, yeah, all that carb deliciousness is my go-to.
And it's so interesting, Vic, any of the sort of sports-based dietitians who are helping athletes identify or correct energy deficiencies, one of the key things there is this reticence to take on carbs as if they're, evil. So it's nice to, or not take enough on board. It's nice to hear an athlete just say, give me carbs. Bedtime, morning time. This is going to be an interesting question given that you've got a 19-month-old.
Bedtime, it should be, I start feeling really tired around 9, but I normally stay up till 10 because it's my time without bub.
Yep.
And then it can be anywhere from in the 5s to 7, depending on when Sky gets up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Who's the athlete you would most admire, Vic, and why?
Well, there's a lot of people to admire, but Eloise is one of my faves. I just like how she goes about it. She's got a lot of humour as well as kindness and compassion. And what is it, Bub? There we go. She's pointing at something. And she's a friend, and she's always been a good friend to me whenever I've reached out. So yeah, definitely. And I love what she does with Love Mercy, and yeah, she's just a quality human.
Quality human. Toughest competitor you've ever raced against? Who and why?
Ooh. I don't know. Well, Jen always beats me, so she's pretty tough. I don't really think about one particular person, but yeah, Jen is an amazing at many distances now and a hard one to beat, especially because she's got speed at the end. I'm trying to think of, Eloise is always hard to beat. I always remember my wins against them because there's few of them.
Is there a mantra that you use when you're training or racing consistently?
Not consistently, but my partner just saved the day in taking Sky. Not consistent. It can change. There's this, when I was doing hills at Centennial Park once, things just pop into my head and I'm like, show them your strength. And I'm just like, be strong up the hill. And that I just had that in my head the whole time. So different things like that, just positive words. something that I've really latched onto recently is instead of when you're really tired and you're like, I've got to do this session or I've got to do this, and is to flip it to I get to. And then you bring that gratitude in, like, I get to do this, because, think of the times when you're injured, when you just all you think of is I want to run, and then you're like, I've got this run to do and I can't be bothered. It kind of levels you out.
The power of thoughts and words. Yes. What's your best recovery tip, Vic?
My best recovery tip? Well, I should say, stretching. I should do more of it, but just some easy stretching. I do like a hot bath as well, which I don't know if many people do, but yeah, heat. I love heat rather than cold. Even though I did hear on a podcast that ice baths are really good for women and not so good for men. I'm thinking, well, I'm more of a dude because I don't like the ice baths, but I'll take the heat.
One word to describe your racing style, Vic, what would that be?
I love to lead. People know this. I just go out and grind. Yeah.
So I think Bernard Legat labelled Dave McNeil a masterful front runner.
Yeah, well, I'd love it that's kind of along my lines. I don't know about masterful, but I'm definitely a front runner. I go out after it.
How would you describe being in the zone, Vic?
Oh, well, you're not looking at your watch. Time doesn't matter. You're in a state of you're pretty euphoric, just loving it and just flowing. A bit meditative. Yeah. So, everything just is coming together. Yeah.
You know what? I think in the 250-plus episodes to date, maybe that's the first time the word euphoric's been used. But the moment you said that, I'm like, that's it. That's exactly how it feels. There's nothing like it. Yeah. And, Vic, we know that epic training sessions alone don't make, for the best performances, but it's a bit of it's a fun question to answer, and that is, what's the hardest session you've ever done? Any epic sessions you can recall?
Oh, there's been some epic June, with Sean Williams. We went to a camp near the dunes, near the beach, and we did this this really hard tempo along the beach, and there was wind and rain and hail in our face coming on the angles. That was pretty tough. And then just doing reps up dunes is pretty hard.
Yeah, and how many reps were we talking about?
Oh, I don't even know, because, he says do this and then do more, and then I don't know what we've done in the end, and then do this loop. And so, I'm not exactly sure on the numbers there.
The sand dunes. Yeah. Vic, you're out of the performance round. Well done. Every guest of the show issues listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So what is Vic Mitchell's physical challenge going to be?
Well, self-awareness is a really big key, I think, to growing and getting better as a human and a performer. So I'd say this is kind of random, but instead of going out and doing something, I want you to just be still and meditate for 10 minutes.
How many times? Is this once off? Because I think I'm listening to that, and I think I could do it once.
Well, if you did 10 minutes a day for a week, that'd be pretty good.
Oh, gosh. And,
and you think, oh, no, I don't have time, but, it's 10 minutes. Yeah.
I get a bit stressed thinking about sitting still for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I bet you do.
But it's a worthy challenge, right? And what are we going to do in that 10 minutes? Think about what?
So it's about becoming aware of your thoughts and not going off so it's meditation, basically. So you don't want to try to stop your thoughts. You just want to become aware of what thoughts you're having and anchor your focus to your breath. So whenever you wander off into thought, you just come back to your breath, and you try to stay with your breath, just not thinking about anything but your breath to as long as you can. And then you get that nice peaceful, you're just aware of, it's like you're aware of the clouds in the sky, but you're not floating with them. It's not about emptying your mind. It's about becoming clear and being the presence behind those thoughts.
This might be a strange question, but eyes open or closed?
It's up to you, your preference. I like mine closed, but you can have them open if you like.
Yeah, right. Oh, I was just thinking about the clouds.
It's easy to focus.
I was thinking about the clouds.
You want to look at the clouds, yeah. You have to be outside, yeah.
Vic, every guest also gets asked this quite challenging question, and that is, if you could boil everything you've learnt through your career to date, which is still ongoing, into one piece of advice to help listeners pursue and perform at their own physical best, what would Vic Mitchell's one piece of advice be?
Listen to yourself over others. Like, you really got to listen. You know, you normally know when you need to rest, or when something is niggling you in training, you think, oh, I don't want to take a day off, but you're thinking I should. Yeah, listen to your body. Listen to it. Like, go with that intuition, gut feeling. Or if the opposite is true, if someone's holding you back and you can do more, then do that. But obviously a lot of type A personalities, and all they do is want to do more. So there's that side of things. But depending on who you are, just basically trust yourself more. Yes.
So listen to yourself, not others. And I guess the key there, as you said so beautifully, is trust yourself more.
Yeah, trust yourself more, yeah. Because, you're the one getting all the feedback. You're the one doing it. You're the one putting yourself through all of it. So you've got the best information to go off.
You're listening to Vic Mitchell, 5 times Australian national 3000m Steeplechase champion and dual Australian Olympian, on this featured performer episode as Vic shares on her career highs, lows and learnings and her journey on returning to sport postpartum. If you missed last week's episode, it has been a very popular expert edition with US-based medical exercise specialist Celeste Goodson exploring the topic of returning to sport postpartum. It's a must-listen-to episode for coaches, athletes and practitioners. And here's a little snippet of my conversation with Celeste. If you could change one thing about the postpartum landscape worldwide to help women get back to their best, if it could only be one thing?
I would say go see a pelvic floor PT, because it's just not standard. And sometimes women have a hard time even getting a referral, which is kind of discouraging when you think about what their bodies went through. And it's just kind of like, well, you're 6 weeks cleared and, just gradually get back into exercise, and there's no guidance whatsoever. And women have a lot of questions, right? Can I do crunches? When do I run? When do I not run?
To enjoy the full episode, be sure to jump over to wherever it is that you enjoy the show from. We're also on YouTube now, and of course across all podcast platforms. For now, let's jump back with this week's featured guest on this featured performer episode, 5 times Australian national 3000m Steeplechase champion, dual Australian Olympian, 3 times Commonwealth Games representative, Vic Mitchell, sharing on her career, highs, lows and learnings, and her own journey returning to sport postpartum. What do you think's the reason why we so often can have a hard time trusting ourselves around training decisions?
Oh, because that inherent thing that we're not good enough, or we don't have it, we're not smart enough, or we don't have all the answers, or someone else has a better, he's an expert and I'm not. I think it's more of that kind of thing. And we're not taught to really tune in. So, we're taught to listen to others and get their opinions and advice and do what they say. Even from a child, you do what you're told. Yeah.
And yet we know that from the science, mood, that self-assessment is the best gauge of an athlete's readiness to train. Yep. And it so often gets pushed down. I think it's interesting. I think a lot of athletes would resonate with it's hard to do less. It's hard to trust yourself to take that break, rest, or to take that time off, or to do a lesser session, or to even miss a session, right?
Yep. Yeah, just to cut some reps off, or, not do your evening run. My thing is, I'd rather miss one day than, 2 weeks in the long term, or even more.
Vic, it makes me think of Meb Klevetsky, who as a masters athlete said he will always intentionally leave a little bit in the tank with every session, just a little bit.
Yep. Well, that makes sense because, as we get older, which I'm in a bit of denial about, is you cannot, you can't back up, you can't train. Like, you can't do 3 sessions a week anymore. You just don't recover. So you've got to just, scale it back and do a couple. And maybe that's actually advice I might take on board, because when you do ring yourself out, it takes longer to bounce back, and then it may affect your next session. So
what's the reason you're in denial about aging?
Because if anyone knows me, I'm just like, whatever, age is nothing. But there are some things that come with age. That's wisdom, but also you're eventually going to slow down. But I reckon people take it too far. So people limit themselves deliberately by saying, I'm this old, I can't do this. So I hate that kind of attitude. I'm like, man, do what you can, just see how you're going to go. But a lot of people, they switch off. They're like, I'm 40, I'm done. Like, I can't do this, I can't do that. And I'm just like, that is not how it is. You can do so much more. I may not be able to run. Who knows? I could maybe run as fast as I did back in my 20s. I don't know. I'm going to try to see. Just keep pushing. Anyone that puts all these limiting thoughts on without just, why even limit yourself? Just see what you can do. Just leave it open. You don't have to say you can't do it. Just see what you can do.
Yeah, beautifully put. And, I mean, we see time and time again, 40-plus athletes posting outstanding results. I do think there is a decay in some of those perceived barriers that is happening with time. Your Kelly Slaters, your Meb Klavetsky's, your Abdi Abdurrahman's, Bernard Legat's in the running world. So I think it's fantastic. I actually was on a training ride this morning with a couple of 20-something-year-olds, and I'm 40, and one of them said, I thought you were 26. And I was like, well, hey, I'll take that. Yeah. Gosh. Vic, exactly. What's coming up for you? What is 2021 looking like for you from here on in?
I'm going to go up and do the Gold Coast 10K. That's next on the agenda. But I'm aiming for Bathurst World Cross Country. So that'll be awesome. That's my next team I'm going to try to make. And now I'm thinking, because my last Com Games didn't go so well and I missed Tokyo, maybe Birmingham will be my last hurrah for Steeple. So I'm still hoping to make that Com Games team.
Yeah, brilliant. So you've got some solid goals ahead of you. And Vic, for those that want to follow your journey, and I think people have gotten a sense of the character that you are. You're very open, very earnest, which is beautiful. Where can they follow your journey?
At Vic Mitchell 1 is my Instagram. I'm a big Insta person. I don't really do Facebook, even though I'm on there. You'll just see I do stories every day. Instagram person. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not on Twitter, so I never tweet.
Oh, gosh, you may not be missing much there, Vic. Vic, we certainly wish you all the best for those upcoming goals, and thank you for your contribution to the show, and also just for sharing so openly. And no doubt the inspiration that you're giving to all athletes, in particular a lot of women, I'm sure, will really resonate with and be inspired by your journey so far. So
any kids in the country, like that's what I want to get to them as well, the ones that are from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and, don't really have someone to guide them or anything like that, to reach out and look for a mentor and find someone, because there are people around. And if, like my PE teacher, I was just lucky I had, him around.
Yeah, brilliant. So you've got that connect with the country kids as well. So I guess they could reach out to you as well if they listen to this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. Yep. Vic Mitchell, you're a national treasure. Thank you for your contribution.
Thanks so much.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show. And I trust and I know you enjoyed Vic's sharings today. Now, if you did, please reach out and let Vic know what it was you enjoyed from her so transparently sharing her journey. What a unique episode. And of course, big thanks to Little Sky for her awesome cameo appearances. You'll find Vic over on Instagram at Vic Mitchell, MITCHELL1. So jump over, give Vic a follow. She's a terrific follow, keeps it very real and transparent, inspiring many as she goes. If you'd like to tag in the show on social, you're welcome to do so at Physical Performance Show on Instagram. Consider a podsy. That's simply a screenshot of the episode that you're enjoying and tagging in the show. We'll reshare those. They're always a whole lot of fun. Now, massive thanks to those that have been leaving ratings and reviews over on iTunes. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe if you'd like the show to land in your earbuds each and every week as we go live. Another huge thank you to the team at Earshot's Bluetooth headphone technologies. If you're sick of your headphones falling out of your ears or running out of charge within several hours, then jump over, redeem the code for 10% off your own set of Earshot's Bluetooth magnetic headphones. They really are the headphones for runners and cyclists who charge. And lastly, if you would like to support the production of the show, as we say, podcasts are free to download, however, they are not free to produce, and you're getting something out of it, then consider a Patreon Learnings membership from just $5 per month. In return, we want to thank you and we'll grant you access to our live stream back catalogue and our upcoming 2021 live stream events with Rennie McGregor and Rory Darkins as well. A massive thanks, as always, to the great folk who make this show possible week in, week out. The same team from inception, Matthew Walding on all things show graphic design, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, and of course, Daryl Misson, our audio engineer extraordinaire. Now, we keep this theme of returning to sport postpartum going on next week's episode as we catch up with return guest of the show, Jessica Stenson, nee Trengove. Now, Jess first appeared on the show way back in 2016 in December on episode 34. And here we are catching up several hundred episodes later, almost 5 years later, to catch up with what Jess has been up to. Now, Jess has shared Australian Olympic teams and Commonwealth Games teams with today's guest, Vic Mitchell. And serendipitously, Jess herself gave birth to a beautiful young boy, Billy, who is just weeks apart from Vic Mitchell's daughter, Sky, who you heard from today. So Vic and Jess have shared the return to sport postpartum journey together, navigating their own unique obstacles along the way. So we'll hear from Jess around the challenges that she's faced, getting back to her best postpartum, and Jess espouses, as did Vic today, some fantastic tips to help coaches, athletes, and practitioners navigate this all-important topic. Now, heads up, following Jess, we keep this theme going for the full month, and we'll catch up with repeat guests of the show and fellow Australian Olympic and Commonwealth Games team member to both Vic and Jess, Elsie Wellens. So you are in for a real treat in coming weeks. Up next week, Jessica Stenson, nee Trengove, followed by Elsie Wellens. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.